Now we'll look at setting up a main function with a command line argument. We'll start by refining our word fetching module a little further. First, we'll perform a small refactoring and separate the word retrieval and collection on the one hand from the word printing on the other. This is because when importing, we'd rather get the words as a list, but when running directly, we'd prefer the words to be printed. Next, we'll extract a function from our if name equals main block, called main. By moving this code into a function, we can test it from the REPL, which isn't possible while it's in the module scope if block. We can now try these functions from the REPL. We'll use this opportunity to introduce a couple of new forms of the import statement. The first new form imports multiple objects from a module using a comma-separated list. The parentheses are optional, but they do allow you to break this list over multiple lines if it gets long. This form is perhaps the most widely used form of the import statement. The second new form imports everything from a module using an asterisk wildcard. This latter form is recommended only for casual use at the REPL. It can wreak havoc in programs since what is imported is now potentially beyond your control, opening yourself up to namespace clashes at some future time. Having done this, we can fetch words from the URL, print any list of words, or indeed run the main program. Notice that the print words function isn't fussy about the type of items in the list. It's perfectly happy to print a list of numbers. So perhaps print words isn't the best name. In fact, the function doesn't mention lists either. It will happily print any collection that the for loop is capable of iterating over, such as a string. Given this, we'll perform a minor refactoring and rename this function to print items, changing the variable names within the function to suit. We'll talk more about the dynamic typing in Python, which allows this degree of flexibility, in the next module. One obvious improvement to our module would be to replace the hard-coded URL with a value we can pass in. Let's extract that value into an argument of the fetchWords function, called URL. When running our module as a standalone program, we need to accept the URL as a command line argument. Access to command line arguments in Python is through an attribute of the sys module called argv, which is a list of strings. To use it, we must import sys at the top of our program and then get the second argument with an index of 1 from the list. This works as expected when we pass a URL from the command line. This all looks fine until we realize that we can't usefully test the main function any longer from the REPL because it refers to sys.argv1, which is unlikely to have a useful value in that environment. The solution is to allow the argument list to be passed as a formal argument to the main function using sys.argv as the actual parameter in the if name equals main block. Testing from the REPL again, we show that main is also usable from here. For more sophisticated command line processing, we recommend you look at the Python standard library argparse module or the inspired third-party docopt module.